So here is our very first passage of the mock, and what does it talk about? It takes us into the domain of criminology, which happens to be a sub-part of sociology. So it right away off the bat introduces us to people called positivists. And their core argument was that human behavior was determined behavior. So even the crimes that they commit are activities, are things which are not in their control. And the earlier positivists said that it comes from the biological sources. Then the next paragraph adds a bit more. They also advance the idea that social forces were an additional sources. And then here we have been introduced a contrast between positivists versus the classical school. What is that contrast? Say they did not go so far as to argue that punishment should not be used, but they did advance the notice that punishment was insufficient. So in a way, the classical school guys were saying that, hey, no, we should use punishment. These guys are saying, yeah, that's insufficient. That's not gonna work. So they did not outright said that, okay, no punishment, but at least that's a core point of difference between them. Then subsequently the next paragraph now brings us to the present. It says that, yeah, then as now the main alternatives were get tough deterrence strategies, that is punishment, or strategies that address the root cause. So the debate hasn't really changed much in that sense, but the ideologies have changed. So instead of classical school versus positivist, now we are talking about rational choice theories of crime against what might still best be called positivist theories. And here they've said that contemporary positivist theory is significantly changed from what you've seen in the past. And then the last paragraph talks about what most modern criminologists and sociologists look at. So most modern criminologists are now sociologists who focus on how social structures and culture explain criminal behavior. What all of these modern positivists? So here we know that we are not talking about all the criminologists, we are actually talking about positivists. And what they have in common with their predecessors is that determined nature. Okay, and that's where the passage stops. So let us get into our very first question. A fundamental conclusion by the author is that A, it is doubtful whether sociologists will ever be able to fathom the root cause. No, the root cause are already provided, right? It's a bit of biology, it's a bit of psychology, it's a bit of social factors. Crimes are committed by people due to a combination of biological and social factors. We can say that this is true, but it is true according to the positivists. And that is not the fundamental of the conclusion. So it is only a part of the mix. This was a starting point to prove that, hey, these are the factors. So we need to look at these root causes to move towards finding a solution to this problem of crime. So it's partly true. It is true, but it is a part of that conclusion. Okay, then let's have a look at C. The main objective of contemporary criminologists is to resolve the amalgam of pressure that makes some people more prone to criminal activity. Yeah, that's better. That in fact is stated in the last paragraph. D, the debates about criminality have changed substantially in the modern era. This is false. They have not changed. They have remained the same. Still, deterrence through punishment versus addressing the root cause. So I think A and D were easy to rule out. B, by the virtue of being true, would appeal a lot to us, but C adds that other part as well, that hey, we need to find a solution, right? And that is what makes C a better answer choice for question number 1. Here is your next question. Which one of the following is not a valid inference from the passage? So let's see, just quickly label them as true, false, can't say. A, both the early and the modern positivists believe that criminal behavior is not a product of choice or of individual free will. True. They believe that it is determined by biology, psychology, social factors. Modern positivists have added societal pressure and culture into the mix for explaining criminal behavior. True. True. This is in fact mentioned in the last paragraph itself. Positivists believe that simply imposing harsh measures to combat crime would not lower. Absolutely, this is in fact one of those fundamental assertions made by positivists. Okay, D, the classical school believed that punishment was not adequate to deter crime. That's false. This was believed by the positivists, not by people who follow the classical schools, and therefore since we are looking for not a valid inference, our answer must be option D. Here is your next question. What's the primary purpose of the passage? So what is this passage essentially about? This passage is about criminology, where it focuses on the positivists a lot, right? So it essentially informs and explains us about the positivist school of criminology, their idea behind how crimes, or what leads people to commit crime and what needs to be done. So let us see. So A, it explains the various hypotheses on criminal behavior. No, not various. It focuses mostly on the positivist. B, it focuses on the positivist school of thought in relation to causes for criminal behavior. That's pretty close. Looks like a very promising option. It compares and contrasts the differences in theories between the early positivists and the modern positivists. No, there is no contrast there anyway. It does at a couple of places talk about the difference between positivists and the classical school, positivists and the rational theories of crime, but there is no comparison and contrast provided between these two. There is just a minor addition that is provided, and that too only in a paragraph. So that's a very minor part. You cannot really call it the primary purpose. For it to be primary purpose, you would like to see at least 2-3 paragraphs devoted to it. And D, it tries to decipher the root cause for crime in society. Now this is very broad. It once again omits the positivists and therefore can be eliminated, and that leads to option B as our best answer choice for this particular question. And here comes the fourth one. The author notes that these early positivists were critics of the classical school. They did not. Okay, we looked at it. Which one of the following statements can be properly inferred? Let's have a look. The classical school was in favor of punishment for deterring criminal activity. Yes, this can be inferred. This is true. Positivists were of the view that criminal behavior was basically uncontrollable. No, this is not something that we can infer from this sentence. From this sentence, we can infer that punishment is insufficient. Punishment may fail to control criminal behavior. So, on the basis of this, we label B as can't say. C. Again, we know that it is mentioned elsewhere in the passage, but it is not something that can come from this particular quote, and therefore you can rule it out. And D is patently false. So because we are looking for what can be inferred, we should go ahead and choose A as our answer to this particular question, and that takes care of our first passage.